Welcome back. This is part of a series of conversations that I'm holding with Kirk Ford, my client for the past couple of years. And his story is fascinating of how he has come from the depths of despair with UC in a very severe case to living a free and happy symptom-free, UC-free life. We have a longer conversation, which you can check out in my channel, which has caused a big stir, lots of comments, lots of shares. But this is a much shorter conversation discussing one of the three pillars of health, the things that he uses as his foundations for maintaining his health and having a really amazing life. Check out the other two. We'll start by asking Kirk just to explain what was happening in the past with your health. So, Kirk, thank you for joining us again. It's
Oh, it's
good to
great to
see
be
you.
back, Rachel.
Could you just explain in a nutshell to guys that are watching, and they may already know this, but what was your UC story?
Yeah, so basically 2019, kept getting stomach issues, back and forth to the doctor. They categorized it as something else. And then the one day, went to the GP. She asked me if anybody in the family had any symptoms. I told him that my granddad sadly passed of bowel cancer. I was admitted straight away to A&E. Next thing you know, endoscopy, blah, blah, blah. And they said, I have ulcerative colitis. Fast forward to 2021, I was hospitalized with a very severe bout of ulcerative colitis. In fact, one of the seniors down there, one of the doctors said it was one of the most severe cases. My inflammation markers were in excess of 300, which is really high, which is your CRP marker. I've been rushed down for an emergency operation because they thought my bowel was going to perforate. As I was being wheeled down, my partner, Kirsty, thankfully rang me. I was on my mobile phone and she said, just turn around. You're not going through with it. You're not in the mental capacity to make the right decision. So the doctors were dead against what I was going against because they said I could perforate at any point in time. I was put on morphine. I was on all fours, Rachel. I was crying. I'm not ashamed to admit
Mm.
that. Mentally in a poor place. Physically, the pain is just indescribable. We could not describe it. You know, I had people, nurses even saying, why are you going through the op? Because we can see how distressed you are. And then they put me on this IV biological drug called infliximab. They said I'd be on it for the rest of my life. They put me on it for an acute dose for 8 weeks whilst in hospital. It did superb. It got my markers down. They put me on steroids, IV steroids, the maximum dose. And within 8 weeks, all the markers came down. They said it was time to go home. Anyway, I had to come back for the next 4 weeks for this IV drip for infliximab biological drug. I never returned, Rachel. I found alternative therapies. I found yourself around EFT tapping, cold water therapy, and intermittent fasting, and I healed my mind and body myself.
Yeah, and that's just an amazing story. And it's important to get that story out there to give people hope and options. So what we're going to be talking about in this short conversation is the intermittent fasting piece of your pillars of health. And I will just say before we start, this is for educational purposes only. We hope you enjoy this conversation, but we're not in any way recommending that you personally do any form of intermittent fasting without speaking to your GP, your doctor, your MD, your functional medicine practitioner, your nutritionist, your IBD team, whoever it might be, because your personal situation and your unique biology need to be taken into account before you make any big dietary changes. But this is something we do want to talk about because there are benefits to fasting for the right people. So, Kirk, how did you come across, time restricted eating, intermittent fasting, however you want to term it?
Yeah, so whilst in hospital at the depths of despair, Rachel, I Googled, alternative therapies, and I come across this podcast on YouTube. And, this guy, he claimed to reverse his ulcerative colitis through intermittent fasting. So I was all ears. I just wanted to do anything to help myself. And I started off on my journey of fasting after leaving hospital because I couldn't do it whilst in hospital. And I started very slow. I started at 12 hours. So I'd finish at, say, 7 in the evening and then have breakfast 7 a.m. the following morning. And then the window just got bigger and bigger. Like today, for example, I'm doing a 24-hour window because that's what I feel like doing. I feel it gives me more energy as well. So I feel is absolutely fine to do from that perspective. But my rule of thumb is I normally do around about 18 hours most days. You know, I'm a creature of habit now. I won't break that. If I know I'm going out for food with my partner or friends, I work around that. So I know the day before, got my plan in, right, okay, I'm going to be eating tomorrow at X amount of time. So today I'm going to stop eating at X amount of time. So yeah, it's brilliant. But there's so many benefits to it, not just for the UC. Just from an insulin perspective, it reduces your insulin because you're not constantly spiking your insulin. And I will say as well, Rachel, from an outsider's point of view, because I've been there, this is very underrated. Intermittent fasting is so underrated. It isn't seen as sexy. It's not considered cool by the majority of people, because I speak to people in the gym. They're like, oh, you're that lad that does all that intermittent fasting. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. But it's the best thing, one of the best things I've ever done. You know, I feel great. I wake up in the morning, I train on an empty stomach. I feel at my optimum. I feel amazing.
Yeah. And what you were saying there, you can start slow. So if you're new to fasting, you think this sounds extreme. 12 hours or more is a fast.
Mhm.
So really, if you just don't snack in the evening, the
Yeah,
chances are if you eat dinner at say 6 p.m., by the time you get up in the morning, your body's already in that zone. So it
yeah,
doesn't have to be extreme. Always start slow, always start carefully, and keep an eye on how you're feeling. If you are feeling like you're having extreme mood swings or irritability or lightheadedness or um, trouble concentrating or unusual levels of fatigue, clearly your body does not want to do it. There's
yeah,
also many ways of doing fasting, isn't there? There's the 5-2 where you eat normally for 5 days and you're very restricted on calorie intake for 2 days.
yeah,
That was very popular some years ago. A lot of people still do that. There's 16-8, which just means 16 hours of not eating, an 8-hour eating window, 18-6, 20 and 4. Kirk today is doing 24 hours.
yeah. I'm doing it with my friend Megan. So last night she messaged me, said I feel like doing a 24-hour. So we both stopped finished at 4:30 yesterday. So I will meet now till tea time. And you just mentioned about energy, Rachel. It's bizarre because you would never think this. It
Yeah,
gives you more energy.
yeah. And I have found that there were
Mhm.
times, I haven't done it recently, there were times when I've done 24-hour fast and you'd think that you would be absolutely, and I wasn't well at the time. It was back a long time ago when I had UC. You think you would be like dead on the sofa by 3 p.m. But weirdly, the energy just seemed to get higher and higher.
Yeah,
And that was for me at a time when I was not on good form at all. So I've always found it quite a curious thing. And it can take a little bit of practice to get up to your 16 hours or 18 hours. When you start, yeah, you are going to feel a bit hungry,
yeah,
partly because you're breaking a habit. Your
yeah.
body's going, well, normally we've had breakfast by now, or normally we've eaten dinner later, or something. Your body's going to send you the
Well,
cues of this is out of my habit, out of my comfort zone. But if
yeah.
you're just gentle with yourself, you'll be surprised how quickly you can
Mm.
slot into some form of
Well,
fasting.
yeah, what it does, it brings about a whole new biochemistry for you. It's a
Yeah,
whole new metabolism within you, and the benefits are so endless. So you just you just mentioned habit there, Rachel. I really think, and watching podcasts, we're addicted to eating as a society. It is an addiction, and I can put my hands up. I just used to constantly eat, and I'd be chewing on something throughout the day. If an hour went by, oh, I haven't had anything to eat, and I'd constantly be eating. And I think we're addicted. And as soon as we stop this, fasting becomes so easy. It's not an addiction anymore. Your sugar spikes, you don't get them anymore. So when you're constantly going up and down, up and flat, you don't get that because you've got nothing in you. There's nothing to spike, which is superb. People are just scared of fasting. I think it's just one of those things where they think, oh my God, if I don't eat, that's going to have a negative impact on me. But for me personally, it's done the absolute reverse, which is
yeah.
superb.
And it's resting your gut. When it comes back to
Of
IBD,
course.
it's giving your gut a break. There are certain processes within our digestive system that can't happen unless food hasn't been passing through it for about 5 or 6 hours. But the problem with our society is we've kind of been trained into thinking 3 meals a day and a couple of snacks.
Oh yeah.
I listened to a very interesting podcast some years ago with Dr. Rangan Chatterjee and that guy. that guy from Zoe, forgotten his name. And he's talking about the fact that there is, that's
Spectrum.
it, thank you. There isn't really any basis for this snacking. They don't do it in Europe,
Yeah.
and the kids are all doing a lot better than ours. So it is interesting, less is more.
Yeah.
But when you do eat sensibly.
Mm.
That's also the important thing. So improvements, the scientifically proven kind of possible benefits, improving cholesterol levels, improving blood sugar levels, as you've
Blood
discussed.
pressure.
It may lower inflammation. It
Yeah.
can create cellular repair within the body, may help prevent cancer, and it can boost brain health. And there's other things as well.
Yeah.
But
It also is meant to create new stem cells. So any of the old ones that are around, it will eat the new ones will eat the old ones and create and regenerate new stem cells for you, which
yeah,
is
so
massive.
the longer you fast, different things start happening.
Yeah.
I think it's about after about don't hold me to this. You can check. You can all check your own sources. Something like over 18 hours starts
Yeah.
to benefit the gut. Over 48 hours, it starts to boost the immune system. 72 hours, stem cell. It's like a
Yeah.
stem cell
Mhm.
therapy, what you're saying, a clean out. That's where you're talking about needing professional guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about professional guidance, Rachel, I've recently done a podcast with I don't know if you've seen it on Amazon Prime. It's actually the top seller on there at the moment. It's called Healing Within Fasting. It's two Australian chaps, very, very good lads. And they've got a massive following on Instagram. But I watched it. I reached out to them afterwards and we just started the conversation. And last week I did a podcast with Sinclair, who's one of the brothers from the podcast. And, if you want any more information on long duration fasting, I give these guys a follow and I'd watch the podcast. The documentary on Prime is superb. It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
And those guys have now, it's their calling, isn't it? And they offer programs in that so that you're guided
Absolutely.
appropriately to do these things.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's our little nugget on intermittent fasting. You
Yeah.
can digest that yourselves and have a think about whether or not it's something you're curious to, and then get the appropriate advice for your individual case. What I will also say is, I know that Kirk's got some shout outs he wants to give for other people that have helped him on his journey. But I'd also like to put a shout out to Kirk, because through this journey, which has been harrowing to elation, he has become a very different person himself, and he's now got the calling to help others with their own IBD recovery and fitness. So I would strongly recommend that you give Kirk a follow and keep an eye on what he's up to, because he is just starting to formulate what he's going to be offering the world, and it is very, very exciting. He's already been unofficially helping people, and it's been incredible the results they're getting. I will put all the information for you to be able to find Kirk in the blurb with this video. Follow, get in touch, keep an eye on him. Kirk, who was it you wanted to give some recognition to?
Well, first and foremost, Rachel, not putting you on the spot yourself. If I wouldn't have Google searched you, I always say this, I would never, ever have come across alternative therapies and be in the position I am today. But mainly, it has to be my partner, Kirsty. I think I'd be sat here today with a bag if it wasn't for her and pushing me to the limits when I was at the depths of despair. But I've got such a good network of friends, Rachel, which really bolstered me through all of this. So it's limitless. My mate Paul Dudley, he's got Crohn's disease. He's symptom free. He was messaging me every day whilst I was on my hospital bed. Come on, you can do this. My mate Justin come and visited me. Richard, Kane, Wayne. The list is endless. My neighbor Chris, my close friends like Liam, Ryan Corey, all of these people, Adam, they just every day they would check in, and there was random people as well just messaging me on Instagram saying, "Hey, you getting on, Kirk?" And you need to have that network around you, and you need to take that support on board. So yeah, and new people I've met on this journey as well. Rachel, as part of the Chicken Dippers, my mate Dutchy, Lee Faulkner, Megan, all these people every day, they're inspiring me as much as I'm inspiring them. We're bouncing off each other to get through the day and make sure that, we're doing all the right things and just bouncing off one another.
Yeah, community is huge.
Yeah, and Kirsty's cousin Jenny, she was superb. She was writing out to me every day whilst I was in hospital. Like, when I reflect back on it, if it wasn't for these people as well, I don't think I'd be where I am today. They've all played a massive part. And if I've missed anyone out, I do apologize. It's not intentional.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And if you're wondering what chicken dippers is, if you look at our conversation on cold water therapy, you can find out there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kirk. Really great to talk to you again. You guys don't miss all the two other conversations that we're holding around the three pillars of Kirk's health. Any questions or comments or feedback, please share it in the comments. Get in touch with us. We are here to support you with your IBD recovery. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers, Rachel.